A Corrosion of Hearts is the third full length from depressive black metal group Austere. And this is a group that you would only know if you had gotten into depressive suicidal black metal in the most likely the 2000s at some point. Uh, the 90s sounds, the late 90s sounds certainly applied in terms of their influences that they probably pulled from. I don't know that this I don't know the full details of their original influences on this band, but I know that this is very much in line with a bit of the dark metal of the time that was seeping into the depressive black metal side, where bands like Forgotten Tomb and uh, the original feeling of Silencer was quite mostly gone by then, and the general atmospheric black metal and dark metal side of things had pulled together to get us closer to post metal or post black metal and black gaze and whatnot. So this was always kind of an in between band that had kind of an exemplar sound, an interesting point of view, and just it was always beautifully composed, very thoughtful lyrics, very expressive performances. The vocals are they were certainly hard to miss on those first two records. But for the musicians involved, it was a springboard. It was the place that they got noticed for doing their thing, which was particularly emotionally driven and popular at the time. Not explosive quite at the moment it released, but as the depressive black metal thing moved on and an atmospheric black metal took over in other ways, this was an important band for that transition, and they gave off a certain feeling. It was exemplar. It was a band you weren't embarrassed to still talk about in the 2010s. So they haven't been active since 2010, and in this group. They've certainly been in other groups which are just as notable, if not more in some cases. I think a death metal fan will recognize Temple Nightside and various other groups they've been involved in. Uh, they have been in similar projects since. It's not a stretch that they would come back and compose something again together. And in that sense, this shouldn't disappoint anyone who was a fan in the first place. I think this is a very logical step uh, into and then beyond To Lay Like Old Ashes. I quite like To Lay Like Old Ashes. I think it's a phenomenal record that took a lot of. It was kind of more daring than it needed to be at the time. They could have iterated on it 100 times, and I'm glad they kind of just left it there. It made a lot of sense, and it stands out as this different thing. And I don't know that this third record is quite has it's not quite sitting with me as profound as that one had, but let's just get into the sound and listen to a clip to get the feeling of the record as close as we can. So the sort of bane of the memory of Austere was people believing that the band had split up and Woods of Desolation was the project afterwards. And the thing is that that was a different person, but both members of Austere contributed. So a lot of people believe that Woods of Desolation is basically the spiritual successor to Austere. Musically speaking, it's definitely moved in a direction that I don't think Austere would have, and that shows. I think there's some merit in that thought as we approach Corrosion of Hearts, which is still much more related to the atmospheric black metal side of things. It is still black metal. It's not so focused on post rock and shoegaze, but there are elements of black gaze in some of their more involved moments, or their more just generally more sorrowful points of these songs. This record focuses on, I think, three fairly long 8 to 12 minute songs, which all are quite involved, but melodically steep in the sense that once they get that momentum going, it sort of works itself out in a natural way that shows it's pretty normal to see each event as a little bit of a storm coming in and then blowing out in a patient fashion. And I think it makes for a really captivating listen that is not as damning and depressing as you might think when you label something depressive black metal. This is really atmospheric black metal with a very heavy mood and very personal, emotional lyricism attached to it. Now, we get a lot more clean vocal layers. We get far less of the shrieking, shrill, like silencer type vocals. And um, I think that is not to the detriment of the music. I think it actually improves the read of the full listen and the continuity, like putting it on for more than one listen and jumping in and immersing yourself. The shrieking is basically buried. It's very deep in the mix. So are the vocals in general. And that means that a lot of the melodies, the harmonies, the really pretty parts of this album are likewise buried, and that makes them something you have to seek out within the mist of it all. And I liked that. I think that's sort of in line with what To Lay Like Old Ashes was doing in some of its more heady and more dark metal oriented songs, and a lot of that applies here in a really I hate to say pretty beautiful. It is it's a somber record that doesn't feel desperately depressed. It doesn't feel they're not holding a noose up and howling. So I hate to say it's kind of a classy, austere record. They've always kind of had a high intent in all of their works, but this is incredibly considered. I think it's really easy to listen to. Um, and like I said, the deeper layers of the music are really nice to kind of dig into on repeat. I think that the Sorrow's use of keyboards on this record and synth becomes really strong in the second half as you start to notice it more. It kind of creeps up in the mix. Um, and I liked the way that was incorporated. It makes it feel a little bit more like they're still black metal fans. They're not trying to make pop music with a couple of rasps. So I liked that about it. It still felt like I was listening to a black metal record with a lot of emotion attached to it. So this is a high recommendation for me. I think this is a solid record. I think it's a little bit of a surprise that it is as good as it is, and it remains to be seen if I will stick with it as long as I've stuck with their 2009 record. But I think it's very much in line with the spirit of the band, and I think they brought it back in a meaningful way, where this doesn't feel like it was forced or cheap or, just for the sake of a tour or two. So, check it out and see if it's your thing. And if you want more details on my thoughts, the written review is up on the website.